Hello. For tonight's grisly tale, I'm going to read you a story from More Grisly Tales for Gruesome Kids. These are cautionary tales that I wrote for lovers of Scream. Tonight's story is called The Decomposition of Delia Detherbridge. There are two lobes at the side of your brain that look like floppy saddlebags. They are full of all the knowledge that a human being acquires during his or her lifetime. At birth, they are no bigger than peas, but when a person has reached the wise old age of 80, they are big and squidgy like lilos and press against the bones of the inner ear, which is why old people don't hear so well. Now, obviously, some people cram knowledge into their saddlebags until they're fit to burst, and these people are called clever clogs. But other people hardly use their saddlebags at all, preferring to forego the gathering of knowledge in pursuit of ignorance, and these people are called planks. Delia Detherbridge was a bit of both. She was a clever girl who did no work. She was an only child who had been raised by her academic parents, both dusty professors at Oxford University, to believe that she was the centre of the universe. As a result, she listened to nobody but herself. At school, she refused to do homework. She said she didn't need to, and besides, homework interfered with her evening's entertainment. She was partial to couch potatoing in front of the telly, and when her teachers demanded an explanation, she said, "I don't do homework because it's a well-known fact that girls are much cleverer than boys, and I'm the cleverest girl out of all the girls, so what's the point in doing stuff I already know?" Which was horribly cocky and didn't make her a lot of friends. She knew it all, or so she told the world, and was horrible to those who didn't, mocking their mistakes and sneering at simple errors of memory. "Oh, don't you know anything, Alvin? Your saddlebags must be smaller than peanuts. If there's one thing us girls hate in boys, it's ignorance. So that means you'll never have a girlfriend, never get married, never have children, and probably die all alone in a smelly old loft with pigeons and rats and no tiles on your roof." "Well, I only said Alfred Einstein by mistake," protested Alvin. "I know his name's Al, but really it just slipped out." "Oh, sure," Delia jeered, "like your brain slipped out at birth, pond life." Delia thought boys were especially vile because all they liked was football, which was rough and rude and played by boneheads who'd had all the sense knocked out of their skulls from heading the ball. Spotty Tony Cronk was that stupid, thought Delia, he still couldn't tie his own shoelaces. "Well, that's because I've broken my fingers," Tony protested. "Ha!" she snorted haughtily. "Catching a ball, I bet." "Well, catching them in a fold-up seat at the Royal Ballet, actually." "Ballet?" scoffed Delia. "Oh, don't make me laugh. You couldn't tell a sugar-plum fairy from a plum duff." "Suit yourself," said Tony. "At least I can tell who my friends are." Which was the truth. Delia Detherbridge may have been clever, but she didn't have any friends. Pupils didn't like her because she belittled them, and teachers didn't like her because she never did her homework. Then one day, her weak-jawed English teacher, Mr. Pune, who had more in common with a limp lettuce than a human being, fell sick. He caught a nasty dose of green fly off a rose bush and was advised to spend 6 weeks in bed, a flower bed, of course, and to take 2 shovels of manure 3 times a day. A replacement teacher appeared in class. Her name was Miss Whetstone. She was 50 years old, with a sharply hooked nose, a pointy chin, narrow lips, limbs as thin as pipe cleaners, and wild grey hair that tumbled over her neck like wire wool. She had a weird way of speaking. She spat words across the room like darts, words like punishment and beating and punctual handing in of homework. In Miss Whetstone's class there was nowhere to hide, as Delia soon found out. "And where's your essay, Delia?" "In my head," came the smug reply. "I can't mark your head," said the teacher. "More's the pity." "Then you'll just have to take it from me that it's excellent and unquestionably worth an A-star with knobs on." Miss Whetstone narrowed her eyes and the class fell silent. "If I want to take anything from you, young lady," she hissed in a steely, soft voice, "I shall just take it. I don't need your permission." Delia stared into the new teacher's eyes. They were perfectly still and as dark and deep as the barrel of a highwayman's flintlock. "So, while the rest of the class reads, Delia, you will make a start on last night's homework." "Now?" came the burst of indignation. "In the middle of a lesson?" "Yes, I want to watch you doing it." Delia scowled. "But I don't do homework. I'm far too clever. I'm a genius." "Then you'll have it finished in no time, won't you?" smiled Miss Whetstone. "Or maybe you'd like me to set you something harder." Steam rose from the back of Delia's collar, but words failed her. "I didn't think so," smiled the new teacher. "You may start. A 500-word composition entitled My Worst Nightmare. Carry on." But Delia folded her arms defiantly across her chest and sat back in her chair. "I said," repeated Miss Whetstone, slowly licking her lips, "carry on." The pouting girl gasped. The woman's tongue was red and forked, like a snake's. My Worst Nightmare by Delia Detherbridge. Because I am so clever, my worst nightmare would have to be something like this. A beast-like something that comes in the middle of the night, when everything is dark and scary and fences crash like slapsticks that Punch whacks Judy on the head with, and makes me stupid. Because if you're stupid, you can't read bus numbers, and you think kicking someone is funny, whereas being brilliant like me is different. Being brilliant means I will one day be very rich and famous and probably on telly, on some celebrity game show or presenting Top of the Pops. Anyway, what is my worst nightmare was the question, and here comes the answer. Being turned into a Dumbo by a troll called Gormless. He would have a big face with warts and a scrubby beard and huge smelly feet covered in mud, with toenails that hadn't been cleaned ever, and on his hands long fingernails like sharp pointed sticks. He is really ugly. He snatches me from my bed and takes me away to the land of the really thick, where I would scream things like, "Put me down!" and "Don't touch my brain, the world needs my intelligence." And then the troll would do something to me in a horrible way, and this would be it. That was when the bell rang for the end of school. Delia stopped writing and closed her book in the middle of the sentence. "You will bring me that finished essay first thing tomorrow," said Miss Whetstone, "or there'll be trouble." Delia snorted like a haughty horse that had no intention of being ridden. "We'll see," she said. "Oh, will we?" replied the surprised teacher. "Just exactly who's threatening who here?" "We'll find out tomorrow," said the swaggering girl as she picked up her exercise book and left the classroom. It seemed heavier than usual, and Delia had to use 2 hands to carry it. She did no work that night. She watched 6 hours of television instead, and left her exercise book upstairs next to her bed, where she wouldn't have to look at it. When she went to bed, she moved it onto the floor under the mattress, and was on the brink of going to sleep, when Miss Whetstone's face popped into her mind. "Stupid woman," she muttered. "What does she want now?" No sooner had Delia asked the question than she heard a noise. It was a shuffly sort of a noise, like a heavy sack being dragged across floorboards, and it was right underneath her. She bent over the side of the bed and peered upside down at the exercise book lying in a pool of blue light on the dusty floor. Suddenly the book twitched. Then it slid across the floor, and instead of a shuffly noise, there was a pig-like grunt and a rather unwholesome smell of cheesy feet. Delia held her nose and snatched up the book, only to find that the paper was covered in dirty footprints, and across the 2 central pages a picture had appeared, that of a short, hideously ugly, lumpen-faced man with a beehive of hair. He had long fingernails sharpened to a point and a mouthful of broken teeth. Only it wasn't a normal picture, because this picture moved. The squat little gremlin shook his fist at Delia and howled like a wee widdly wolf. "Release me!" came his tiny cry. It was so distant that it made less noise than a metal nut bouncing on the track in the middle of a Grand Prix. But Delia heard it. "Write me to life." She dropped the book. "Finish the story." With horror, Delia realised what was happening. This freakish figure was the troll of her creation. This was Gormless, and he was trapped in the story because the story had no ending. The troll had nowhere to go, which was exactly how Delia liked it. She was scared. She slammed the book shut and stuffed it into her rucksack, where the little gruff voice of Gormless was muted by her gym socks. The next morning, however, Ms. Whetstone asked for Delia's completed essay. "Well, I couldn't finish it," said the girl. "You mean you didn't finish it?" corrected the teacher. "There's a difference, Delia. One is excusable, the other is not." "No, I couldn't finish it," protested the girl, who for once felt she had a genuine excuse, "because it was about a troll called Gormless who made people stupid. But he came alive in my book, and I was scared that if I finished the story I would release him from the pages and he would eat me." "And you honestly expect me to believe that?" screeched the bony teacher. "But it's the truth," Delia said sheepishly, even though she knew that it did sound a bit far-fetched. Ms. Whetstone suddenly snapped. With a vicious voice that ripped through the room like bolts of lightning, she cried, "You have been lying to me, Delia. Because of that, you will now open your exercise book and finish your essay by the end of this lesson." Even Delia was cowed by the ferocity of the teacher's voice. She didn't want to do it, but she had no choice. Slowly, nervously, with a hand that trembled like a dragonfly's wings, she opened her book and turned to the page where she'd written her story. And there he was, the troll. Delia had less than 30 minutes to come up with a plan to save her skin. If this troll came off the page, he would turn her into a pea-brain, and if she was a pea-brain, all the other children would tease her and call her names like Dahlia Deatherbridge and She Who's as Thick as Elk Stung. Then suddenly she had it. It was her story. She was writing it. Her pen made the troll what it was. It didn't have to be a nasty beast. If she wrote a happy ending, the troll could be a jolly soul with sweet-smelling feet. She scratched out the word horrible and substituted a more friendly word instead. And then the troll would do something to me in an unexpectedly kind and gentle way, and this would be it. He would give me a kiss and say he was a fairy troll with the power to grant me 3 wishes, which I must make instantly to make my life happy and wealthy. So I asked for world fame, £1 million, and the new Boys R Us single, which the nice troll grants. And that is my worst nightmare, that this friendly troll will one day go away. Delia put down her pen and sighed with relief. Turning the frightening troll into a harmless friend was the work of a genius, but then Delia already knew what she was, didn't she? Even if the troll did come to life now, she wouldn't have to be scared. She lifted up the page to see if the troll had turned into a nicer-looking creature with soft skin and long blonde hair like a Viking warrior. But he wasn't there. His image had vanished, along with the smell of his cheesy feet. When the bell rang, Delia got up from her desk and handed her book into Ms. Whetstone. "Good," said the teacher. "You've finished. Wait a moment." She raised her hand to stop Delia from leaving. "Stand there till I've marked it." Delia watched the teacher frown as she read through the composition. "Is there anything wrong?" she asked. "Well, yes, there is," said the teacher. "I'm afraid the ending doesn't work." Yes, it does," said Delia. "It works brilliantly. It kept the troll inside the book." "I meant as a piece of creative writing, Delia. You can't describe a troll as being nasty at the top and then make him nice at the end. The two halves don't join up." Delia didn't like the sound of this. She wasn't sure what was coming next, but she had a pretty shrewd idea. "What do you mean?" she asked nervously. "I mean that the ending must be rewritten," said Ms. Whetstone. "No," squeaked Delia. "No, that's not a good idea. In fact, that's the worst idea I've ever heard in my life. I won't do it." "But you don't have to, my dear," Miss Whetstone smiled. It was a funny, lopsided smile, which suggested that she was moderately unhinged. "I'm going to write it for you." And then she laughed for the first and only time in her life, while Delia turned as white as a corpse and fainted. Nobody quite knows what happened to Delia Detherbridge that night, but suffice it to say that she went home as clever as she'd ever been, and returned the next morning as dim as a 5-watt bulb in a blackout. She never regained her cleverness. She failed all her exams and ended up licking batteries for a living to see if they were dead or not. But every cloud has a silver lining. She never teased others for being stupid again. How could she? There was nobody in the whole universe who was quite as stupid as she was. In case you're a detective and fancy a bit of a puzzle, they do say that the key to what happened in Delia's bedroom on that fateful night lies within the following passage, penned by Ms. Whetstone, as a conclusion to Delia's story. I can't work it out. Maybe you can. He snatches me from my bed and takes me away to the land of the really thick, where I would scream things like, "Put me down!" and "Don't touch my brain, the world needs my intelligence." And then the troll would do something to me in a horrible way, and this would be it. The troll takes me out of bed and stands me in the moonlight so he can see me better. Then he pushes his long fingernails into my ear holes and bursts the saddlebags of knowledge on the sides of my brain. It's like a butcher's hook punching a hole in a big bag of sawdust. The knowledge spills out. It pours out of my ears until there is nothing left in the saddlebags but air. From being a know-all, suddenly I'm a know-nothing. And that's the way it stays, because the troll eats my knowledge and goes away to write the Encyclopaedia Britannica. The end. Delia Detherbridge, with a little help from a fiend.